Hey, how's it everyone? Marcel here from The Average Runner. This channel is pretty much created by a few super average runners and pretty much dedicated to the average runner out there that enjoys trails and just wants to explore and get out there. For those of you who are also new to trail, we're sharing quite a bit of tips and tricks here. Again, this is The Average Runner. So some of the things we probably share are probably not exactly what the top athletes are doing, but it's just something if you want to join and watch and see what it's all about. I have a race this weekend. It's called the Drakensberg Trail Festival. I'm super excited about it. It's around, I think, 42 kilometers and it's about 1,800 meters elevation. So it's going to be quite a tough one for me, but super excited. I think when you look at these long races, a lot of people get scared, but essentially you shouldn't be. It's, you take your time, you walk where you need to, run where you need to. And if you've done some training, you will be good. You'll be good on the race. And we can, on some of our other videos, you can see how we go about training for these longer trail runs. Essentially, it's my second trail run. I haven't done a second long trail run. I did the Monte Source. You'll see in one of my other videos where I did the Monte Source race. It was about 50 kilometers in September. So this is my second long one, or 40 Ks and plus ever. So super excited. And yeah, it's happening this weekend. And why I'm speaking about it is I get asked a lot about how I prepare. What should I do? What should I kind of start looking at? And I really want to talk about when you've entered into a race, what are the things that you should think about and what are the things that you should be looking at? So my first advice is pretty much, when running in the Drakensberg, it's very different to probably running in Joburg or wherever you're running. It's not that easy. A lot of different terrain, weather's changes completely. We're running a race on the Monte Source, and I remember we started at like 15 degrees, and then it started raining in the wind, and when we got up to the top, it was -1 or whatever the case may be. So crazy amounts of weather change. Terrain is completely different if you've never run in the Drakensberg. So super exciting. Don't get scared, but there are things that you can do to prepare. So I've entered into the Drakensberg Trail Festival. Read as much information as you can on the site. Most of these sites for these big races, they've got loads of information, which is great. If I go to the Register Now page, I can see my race here. It's talking about when is the start. So look at potentially, when is sunrise coming up? Do you need to run with a headlamp? The distance. How much you're going to climb, about 1,800 meters. And then there's also a map, which is great, because now what you can do is start looking at this map. Let me open it up here. You can start looking at this map and seeing, okay, perfect. So if I'm starting to run, you can see that this course, actually, a lot of it is running on the same track there and back, which is quite nice, because then you know where you're going and you know where you're coming back. But what's great about looking at kind of the race, and what I usually do is look at mainly the elevation. And as I can see, I'm doing a lot of my elevation within the first 10 Ks, which is pretty stressful because you're doing a lot of it in those first 10 Ks. Another thing is I would want to then use that when I'm training, and maybe when I'm doing hill repeats or whatever the case may be. I know I need to, in a 10K run out there when I'm training, if I can't get to the Drakensberg, maybe I'm going to Klip River and running 10 Ks, and I'm going to try get to that 800, 900 meters of elevation so my legs can feel it. Then I'll plot out where the elevation is and kind of look at, okay, there's two and a half big peaks that I need to look at. So definitely something to take in mind, because then you know also when to push and when your legs need to rest. So that's my first thing. I look at the race map and kind of see what the elevation is going to be like from the beginning, and look at where the course is going. Then another piece that I also do is sometimes they would give you these Gpx files. So for those of you who don't know what Gpx files are, essentially it's pretty much the route that you can save onto your watch, on your computer, whatever the case may be. And now you've got that route, so you can see what the route is going to look like, how many, the Ks, the elevation, etc. So very similar to what I had previously, but now you can load it into Garmin. Some races actually require that you run with your GPX kind of map on your watch for navigation. But most of the routes, I would say 65 Ks and under, most of them are well marked, so you don't need to worry about that. But some of them, of course, do, where you have to navigate yourself, and that's when you'll use a GPX file. But what I like to do is actually take a look at the GPX file. Again, see the elevation. Like I said, a lot of it is getting done within the first 9 to 10 Ks. Then there's a bit of a flat section, a few hills, and then that second kind of climb, which looks like I'm going up the same ridge. If I look at it on the map, if you look there, it's going up that same ridge, but then actually climbing a little bit higher. And then there's quite a steep downhill all the way to the end. So again, just to think about it, look at the elevation. It says 1.6 here, other side said 1.8. Hopefully it's 1.6, so I'm doing less. But it's a good way for you to kind of prepare in terms of what's coming up. Is look at the elevation, because elevation is one of the top killers from an average runner perspective, because we don't train as much as those other athletes, those professionals do. So definitely something for you to look at in terms of really the elevation gain that you're going to get. Another thing, what I also do is, of course, look at the weather. So this weekend looks a bit rainy. So on Saturday, it pretty much looks like we are going to be running in the rain the entire time. When I look at it, never run in a race when it's rained, so super exciting, but also super nervous. Hopefully there's not too much lightning. But that now prepares me for my gear. That prepares me, maybe I should have done a few runs in the rain, feel how it is with the bag. Should my jacket be outside my bag? Should it be under my bag? How should you go about it? Also, when you're looking at the weather, when you're looking at the sites and the rules around what you should be carrying in your bag, sometimes if the weather's rainy or cold or whatever the case may be, they might ask you to pack some thermals and things like that. But I'll kind of touch on the next video in terms of what I'm packing for the race on the weekend. So yeah, just great. It's going to be a nice and wet one, so extra socks definitely, and then lots of rain jackets and things like that. Something else that I also do, which I'm not sure it's cheating or whatever, but what I like to do is if you go to the site and potentially there's past results, then what you can do is look at those past results, look for someone's name that's probably in the middle or close to the end. Then what you can do is find that person's name, go to your Strava account, search for that person on Strava, look for when they did the race a year ago, and then you can click on that and kind of see how that person raced and what pace they went at. Also to give you an indication of when can you push, when can you not, because just looking at elevation, you're not really seeing the terrain, but now you've actually got someone who's run it and can help you on that piece. So use it. I don't know if it's a cheat or not, but it's helpful for me to kind of understand elevation, timing, terrain. It's all kind of bucketed into that Strava because someone else has done it before you. So definitely see, and it's based on kilometers, so you can see when you can push or not. Something else that I also do is I look at past videos. So this is a past video. This is not exactly the Drakensberg Trail Festival, but when doing investigations, like the Drakensberg Trail Festival is very similar, or some of it is by the Drakensberg I think it's called something Drakensberg Northern Trail. So I'm not going to go too much of it, but I would go through the video. Maybe this person's explaining a little bit like I'm doing to you, and it'll give you some good indication of what you should be focusing on and looking at the terrain. So a great way for you to kind of see what's out there, what's going to happen, and how you can prepare is definitely look at some YouTube videos similar to mine, but looking at the others, so you can kind of get that terrain. And that's about it. Essentially, look at the site, read as much as possible, see what your route is, find out as much information as you can beforehand. Start looking at the elevation map, the route map, try get the Gpx files if they're available. Then what I would suggest is look at past results, get someone a few names, look at Strava, look how they ran, kind of prepare, build it into your training as much as possible. Like I said, if you're doing 10Ks, you want to do 1,000 meters, try build that into some sort of a training that you can. If you can't get that elevation, it's fine. If you can't get out to the Drakensberg, at least you can build it in somehow with lunges or whatever the case may be. Then look at the weather, and then just look at compulsory kits and stuff that you need, and start running with all that gear on a lot earlier. But again, I'll chat on that gear on my gear video in a bit. And then watch some other YouTube videos of other runners similar to this. Go watch them and see how they do it. Awesome. Thanks everyone. Wish me luck for the race, and yeah, subscribe to The Average Runner for more videos, and let me know which route we should do next. Cheers.